guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of August. This month was actually a very good reading month. It's currently the 30th of August, so there is still one day left. But I'm currently reading It by Stephen King. I am over halfway, but I still have almost 500 pages left to go, so I highly doubt I will be getting into any more books this month. But to start off with some statistics this month, so I read a total of 18 and a half books this month with a total of 6,015 pages. For authors, I read 6 male authors and 12 female authors. For releases, I read 4 2020 releases. I read 2 ARCs, so books that aren't out yet. And then I read 14 books that came out before this year. For format, I read 10 physical books, 2 ebooks, and I listened to 6 audiobooks. Genre, I read 3 contemporary romance, or contemporary/romance. I read 4 mystery, thriller, or horror novels. I read 3 manga or graphic novels, 6 fantasy novels, 1 dystopian, and 1 historical fiction. I'm sitting here because I'm looking at my computer so that I can see all my stats laid out. So this background is a little chaotic, but we're just gonna go with it. So the first book I read in August is The Fall of Crazy House by James Patterson and Gabrielle Charbonnet. This is a dystopian thriller, and it is the sequel to Crazy House, which is a book set in future, I guess it's future United States, where all of the towns are separated into what they call cells. So your like district is in a cell, and it's usually like has a wall around it and everything. And we have 2 main characters, our twin sisters, Cassie and Becca. And at the beginning of the first book, one of them is kidnapped and the other one has to figure out where she went, and a lot of weird things happen. I picked up the first book thinking that it was purely going to be a thriller, and it was definitely not. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely thrilling aspects, but it wasn't at all what I expected, and it definitely wasn't what I would have expected from James Patterson. That being said, the sequel is the one I read this month, and this one I liked even less. I thought it was unnecessary. There was a lot of repetition and just waiting for things to happen, and honestly, I could have done without it. I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. Before you go. The next book I read was An Unkindness of Magicians by Kat Howard. I actually listened to this on audiobook. This is an adult fantasy standalone, and I really enjoyed this book. Honestly, I kind of wish it wasn't a standalone because I could spend so much more time in this world with our characters. So this is set in a world where there are magicians, and magic is kind of well known in the world. And every 20 years there is a magical competition to see who will become the head of the houses, or between the head of the houses to see who will become like the head of the houses. And our main character, whose name, Sydney is one of the most powerful magicians in a long time. So this is just about her. She is actually contracted by one of the houses to fight for them in this tournament. And I loved it. I loved the character relationships. I loved the magic battles. I love the explanation of how magic works. And there is a mystery in here as the people keep dying unexpectedly, and I just love this book. I gave this 4 4.5 out of 5 stars. It wasn't perfect. Like, I really think it could have benefited from either being longer or being separated into multiple books. All right, to the floor. Oh, I even landed on top of the other one. Go me. The next book I also listened to. So these first 3 books were all audiobooks that I listened to in the car when I went to my dad's house, who lives like 5 hours away. That's why I have so many audiobooks this month. But the next book I have is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And this book broke my soul, and I loved it so much. So this is about a woman, and she didn't really have the best relationship with her father because he abused her mother. And she has feelings of, I don't want to say hate, like she doesn't hate her mother, but she kind of is angry that her mother stayed with her father so long and all of these other things. So her father dies and she moves to Boston, where she meets Ryle, and things happen, and I can't go into any of this. I honestly think that you should just dive into this. I was in the car on the way home. I was actually almost home by the time I finished this, but I just started crying. This book, this is my favorite Colleen Hoover book that I've read so far. I loved it so much. To the floor. The next 2 books I read are in the same series, and that is Wicked King and The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I finally finished this freaking series, and I loved it so much. So in case you are an alien and have no idea what this series is about, this is about Jude and her sister Taryn, who were kidnapped when they were children and brought into the land of fairy, where they were the only humans. And in this, well, they weren't the only humans, but in this land, humans are considered the lowest of low beings. They're treated as slaves, as toys. They are used in wicked games and just for fun. You know, it's just awful the way humans are treated. But Jude wants to be accepted. She wants to join, in the first book, I think she wants to join like the king's army or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but this series was so much better than I expected. I loved the first book, and I loved these even more. Well, that's not true. I think the first book is my favorite, but like the series as a whole was amazing. I gave The Wicked King 4 stars and The Queen of Nothing 4.5 stars. I absolutely adored this series. To the floor. All right. The next book I read because I was still on a Cruel Prince high. Like, I just wanted more from that world. And I went on like searching, and I found out that there is actually a novella that takes place between books 1 and book 2 called The Lost Sisters. So I ended up picking that one up. I listened to that one on audiobook, and it was really cute, and something that I just really needed. It took place, technically the events of the novella took place during the Cruel Prince. It is about Taryn, Jude's sister, and her relationship with Locke, and how all of that went down in the first book from Taryn's point of view. And I loved it. Is it necessary for the story? No. Do you need to read it to like get the full effect? Not really. It's more of just like a little added bonus for those of us who just wanted more in the world, and I loved it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I don't want a physical copy because it was an ARC, and that is Off Balance by L.E. Royal. This is a female-female romance, and it is about a woman who goes to work at this new job because she is trying to just kind of get her life in order because she wants custody of her daughter. And then she starts a romantic relationship with her boss. I I had a lot of issues with this book. I didn't like the relationship. All of their issues had to do with misunderstandings. There was a lot of abuse of power because one of them was the owner of this company. I will say it had a lot of good, diverse representation. There was a non-binary main character. There was one of the main characters had cerebral palsy. Goodness, why is that so hard for me to say? But you know, overall, I gave it a 3-star. It was just okay. The next book is one of my favorite books of the entire year, and that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I absolutely love this book. This is about I never remember names. Alex, who is the first son of the United States, and I love that they made his mother the president, so like the first woman president. I loved it. But at the beginning of this book, he and his family are at the birthday party? No, they're at it's at a wedding party for one of the princes of England, and Alex accidentally starts a rumor that he and Henry, the other prince of England, are like having a feud. And in order to kind of mend their relationships, they're required to become friends. And so they have to hang out and basically fake it for the media. But they end up falling in love with each other, which is not a spoiler. I mean, it's just such a beautiful story, and I love it so much. And Casey McQuiston is coming out with another book next year. I'm so excited about it. I gave this 5 stars, in case you couldn't tell. What did I read next? Okay, the next book I read was Fool by Christopher Moore. This book, I don't know what to say about this book. This is a historical fiction King Lear retelling, and it was so weird. I honestly don't know what to say about it, except that it was a King Lear retelling. I will link, actually most of these I talk about in a vlog, so I will link things everywhere. But this is a book that I read so I could read the second one with my dad, because I wanted to read something with him, so I let him choose because I feel like that was the easiest way to get him to read something with me. And he chose the sequel to this because Christopher Moore is one of his favorite authors, so we actually just had to look at all the books he's written, and then he chose that one. So I had to read the first one. I mean, I didn't hate it. It was definitely funny. The writing style took a little bit of getting used to, but once I did, that was fine. And overall, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I gave it 2.5 stars, so it was okay. The next book that I read was Escape Journey, Volume 1. This is a manga, and it is about our 2 main characters, Nao and Taichi, who were in a relationship in high school, and then they had this huge argument and horrible things were said. And then fast forward to college, and they end up going to the same school, and they're even getting the same degree, or they're going for the same program. So they have similar classes together, and their friends are friends, so they all end up hanging out together, and then they kind of reform their friendship, which eventually turns into a romantic relationship. I have so many thoughts about this book. Okay, first of all, let's start with like just the characters. I thought the characters were really cute. I really liked the story. I loved how past and present kind of collided with each other, and they had to overcome the past in order to be together in the present. Like, I liked all of that. That being said, 2 things happened in this book that are 2 things that I absolutely cannot stand in books. 2 tropes that I absolutely hate, okay? And they both happened in here. So the first is sexual assault. So they are, if you don't want to be spoiled with this, I guess wait till I put it down to, like, mute it until I put it down or whatever. But after they get together and they realize that they can't just be friends without being together, they decide to try, okay? So they're trying to make it work. And at first it's fine, but then the arguments start just like in high school. So for some reason, when they're friends, they're fine, but when they're like actually having sex and all that, they're not. So they are all fine, and then there's a misunderstanding or something. And they start having an argument, and their usual way of ending arguments is just to have sex. But this time, our now doesn't want to have sex. He said he blatantly refuses. He does not want to have sex. He wants to talk, okay? He wants to work it out. And our other character decides he doesn't want to talk, and so he rapes him. I mean, he rapes him. There's no other way to put it. It's rape. Okay? And then it's never addressed, okay? It's never addressed. I literally read this entire thing because that happens like middle. It doesn't happen towards the end or towards the beginning. Like if it was at the very beginning, I may have put it down. And then, yeah, it happened in the middle. So I was like, okay, it's going to be addressed, right? It has to be addressed. It is never addressed. And then now the one who was raped thinks it's his fault. He apologizes, okay? He apologizes. He doesn't say, you raped me or anything. He apologizes, which pissed me off, to be honest. I can't stand that. Like, first of all, you should have never spoken to him again. You should have reported him to the police. Like, things should have happened. But no, he apologized for his own rape. And then, like, he forgives. I can't. I'm getting really worked up, okay? The sad part is I own the second and third volume of this, and I don't know if I'll ever read them. Anyway, I gave this 1.5 stars. It pissed me off. The next book actually starts my books that I read for Scallywagathon this month, which I have an entire vlog for, so I will link that. The first book I read is The Savior's Champion. The Savior's Champion by Jenna Moreci. This is an adult fantasy set in a world where there is only one person who has magic, and she is known as the Savior. And then her father is known as the Sovereign. And then whenever there's a new Savior, and when she turns 21, she becomes of age, and it's time for her to get married, there is a thing called the Sovereign's Tournament run by the father, who is the Sovereign. And it's time for this generation's Sovereign Tournament. And Tobias, our main character, decides that he's going to participate in the Sovereign's Tournament, not because he wants to marry the Savior, but because all the participants, this family, get paid a lot of money for them to participate. To be honest, I was kind of afraid that I wouldn't like it because I've heard so many mixed things about this book. But I really liked it. I really liked the characters. I really liked the trials that they have to go through. I love the really slow build relationship. I love that there are some misunderstandings, but they don't take over the story. But I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. It was a lot of fun. And I read it very quickly, considering how big it is. So I recommend this one. The next book I read is Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. This is the cutest graphic novel ever. I also read this for the Scallywagathon. This is just so beautiful. It's all told in, well, it's a graphic novel. I was going to say it's all told in pictures, but it's a graphic novel. But it's like, all of them are this like cool blue, and I just love it. This is about our main character, Charlie, who is in a kind of relationship. I guess it'd be more like friends with benefits, and he decides that's not what he wants. He wants something more. So he breaks it off with this guy. So he ends up sitting next to Nick Nelson in one of his classes, who is this super popular rugby player. And he ends up getting a crush on him, but he thinks it will never be returned because Nick is obviously straight. But it's just the cutest little romance, and it ended on such a cliffhanger that I don't know how to deal with it. Okay. All right. You good? Yeah. Love you too. I gave this 5 stars, in case you didn't know. But I definitely raved about that book in my Scallywagathon blog. So. The next book I read was Seven Deadly Shadows by Courtney Alameda and Balan E. Maitani. I actually listened to this on audiobook. This is set in Tokyo, Japan. Hey, you moved me. This is set in Tokyo, Japan, and our main character is the granddaughter of a shrine priest. She's training to become a priestess, but her grandfather is murdered by these demons. She has to get 7 Shinigami to join in the fight against this like all-powerful demon. And it was a lot of fun. I love the characters. I loved the Japan and learning about the culture. I feel like it was pretty true to actual culture in Japan. There were a lot of things I didn't understand, but I don't live in Japan, so I thought that was fine. The romance was a little non-existent until it was, so that was pretty much my only issue with this. But the audiobook was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. And the next book I have is Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. This is just a tiny little novella, horror novel that is about a boy whose dead grandfather comes, and it's like a Native American story. Honestly, that's all I can say. And it was definitely creepy, so there's that. The last audiobook I listened to this month was Sadie by Courtney Summers. This is a young adult mystery about a girl who is looking for her sister's killer. And it's really good. I absolutely love this audiobook. Again, I talk all about this in my Scallywagathon reading vlog. But there was a podcast element. There was a TV show element. And I just loved it. I love the characters. I thought it was really well done. And I'm glad I finally picked it up. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read, again, I don't have a physical copy because it was an ARC, and that is Tell Me My Name by Erin Ruddy. This is a it was an adult mystery, thriller, suspense. It was a lot of suspense, a little mystery, and a little thriller. This is about a woman who is kidnapped by this man that she has no idea who he is, and he tells her that she has 3 chances to guess his name. If she guesses wrong the first time, she will cut off her husband's toe. If she guesses wrong the second time, she will cut off a finger. And then if she guesses wrong 3 times, she will kill him, or he will kill him. So, yeah, that's all you really need to know. It's a lot of fun. It was a wild ride, I'll tell you what. Oh, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read was Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This book, so far, is my favorite book of the year. I absolutely loved it. I had 2 favorite books of the year this month. Who am I? This is about a woman named Maggie who, when she was little, her family lived in this house called the Bainbury Hall, I believe. Yeah, Bainbury Hall. And they were only there for 20 days, and then they just left and never returned. And her father wrote a book called House of Horrors about this house and how it was haunted and all of this. So fast forward 25 years later, her dad dies, and it turns out that he never sold the house, and so she inherits it. And so she ends up going back to the house to figure out what really happened that day that they left. I'm going to tell you what, this was a amazing book. I loved, I'm going to go to the beginning so we don't spoil. So we actually have, here we go. So this is the book that her father wrote, right? So we actually have the entire book that her dad wrote in here. And in between each chapter of the book he wrote is a chapter of the present day. So it's just so much fun. I love seeing how the two timelines interact with each other, like mirror, that's the word I'm looking for. The two timelines mirror each other, and it was so creepy. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to tell you anything else about it, because honestly, I think you should go into it blind. And the last book, Hunger, Volume 1 by Hirotaka Kisaragi. This is set in a futuristic Tokyo where there is this drug that when people use it, they become so addicted that they basically just go on like murderous rampages and kill people. And anyone that uses this drug are arrested. However, the most dangerous users are actually contracted by the police. There we go. And if they help the police capture these drug users, they will be paid by taking away years off their sentence. So our main character, we have two main characters. We have Zeroichi, who is the drug user. He has 500 years on his sentence, so he is working to pay that off. And then Hajime, who is his keeper, so it is his job to make sure that he follows the rules and all of that good stuff. And he is only working with him for 1 year, so he can be paid enough to pay off his debt. It was a lot of fun. I really liked it. I gave it like 3.5 stars. It was cool. And those are all of the books that I read. Oh, plus, over half of it, which I will be finishing this week, hopefully. Those are all of the books that I read in the month of August. I feel like this was such an amazing reading month. Honestly, this was a great month for me overall. I started back at work teaching. I started back at the university taking classes because I'm also getting my master's. And I read so many books. So we are doing great. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would love to know what some of the books that you read in August. What was your favorite book that you read? Do you have any books that you just want to rant about? Because I will totally listen. I love ranting about books. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time with another video. Bye! Here they are. I didn't think about the fact that oh, stop licking yourself, that I now need to pick them up to do a thumbnail. This could be my thumbnail. I'm having too much fun. Okay.